Right, so welcome to the third weekly call of the working group for merge request report widgets. And some announcements, just going through the announcements. The working label is here, so feel free to apply them to the relevant epics and issues. And the tracking epic has been created. So this is the epic that we discussed previously that's going to track the two engineering efforts. One is the updating the core component with the functionality and the support of the UX framework. And the other is the actual rewriting of the actual widgets to use that core component. Scott is going to lead that effort to rewrite the extensions, and he's going to kick the tires of the core component, and then we'll go from there. But they're created, so we can start extending them with issues. And any questions on that before we go to the discussion? Cool. Annabelle, the floor is yours. You are on the call.
Yeah, I didn't think I would be, but here I am. Yeah, it looks like this has already kind of been discussed a little bit, but I wanted to make sure, or just find out if it was possible when this is being implemented or built out, to keep in mind that it would be really fantastic if we added telemetry to the same areas of each widget, so we have consistent data across each widget. And I see that we already have some on like the expand button, which is a good place. Not all the widgets have an expand button, so I was wondering if anyone has opinions on where else we should add it. We can figure that out more later. I just wanted to bring it up so that we keep it in mind.
Okay, I'll read what Phil said. Feel that it's possible, yes. Setting up the tracking is kind of long-winded and needs a bunch of different YAML files. Just something to be aware of when implementing. That way it's in the video. Kai?
Yeah, I can finish typing this. I think from a product perspective, this would be invaluable. It's one of the questions that we've had sort of from the beginning anyways, is how valuable are these widgets and should they be in the merge request to begin with? And so that's sort of the questions we need to continue to answer. We know we need to fix all these inconsistencies first. And then the next question we want to answer is, should they be there? How much interactions do they actually get compared to all the other actions and information we ask people to take on a merge request? And so I'm very supportive of doing this. The code review group instrumented actually several groups widgets that weren't instrumented at all, which is why there is some tracking, because we needed to start answering that question already. But I'd say this is important to keep in mind.
Cool, thanks. And especially developing the core component, developing it in the core component will be beneficial for consistency of collection of data. So what I would suggest, we'll create an issue for the epic of the updating the core component only around this topic, so that we can gather some thoughts about what would be the right approach to build this into the code, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Annabelle. Any more thoughts here? Can we move on? Sweet. Rihanna has a point. Since she's not here, I'll voice. So once the team start working on widgets and components, please help us facilitate the UX review of the design framework by assigning the MRs to product designer based on the assignments in the appropriate DevOps stage group. Okay, I can reply. This is useful to know because we already planned to include UX. This provides a mapping, so it's going to be useful. I do think there's probably, Tim, you might have some insight into this. The UX framework is in itself a deliverable. So when we update the core component, we're going to be using that as reference. We will still want to have that work reviewed, and that will go to either one of the members, either you or Marcel or Rihanna, right?
Yeah, ideally, Jeremy, myself, and Marcel. And Hayana as well, if she would also like to be included. But yeah, definitely Jeremy as the owner per se of the regions section in the Pajamas UI, and then Marcel as he's like the overarching lead, and then myself is just support.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Team Noah, thanks. It would be really weird if we assigned Tim Zalman for a UX review.
He'll do a good job. He'll do a good job.
I will pass it to Björn. It's just so weird. I'm not used to having other Tims around because it's not a common Austrian name. In that sense, I'm always like, this is weird. But we will make it.
That's good. But this is really good to know. On that sense, I can provide an update on the state of it. We are pending an effort to break down the epic. I already informally discussed with Phil, but I plan on doing it until the end of this week to break down into further issues. And then I'll be tagging you, I'll be sharing it in the Slack channel about who would be available to pick what are the issues. So the idea is to parallelize the effort to update the core component, and with an upcoming milestone and backend kind of like still focus on the engineering allocations, it provides us ample time to spread that around with many people. So update on the epic deconstruction into issues. It's coming. I feel like that's a good summary until the end of the week. Right, we don't have anything else on the agenda. I'd like to take the opportunity that we have Tim on the call for the first time, and you're like the sponsor of the working group. Is there anything in your mind that is not clear about the working group? Anything that you'd like to clarify from your end? Are you happy with what you've seen so far? Give us your feedback so far.
But just before you go,
okay.
Sorry, Tim, you make sure you make the distinction, because I got really nervous for a second. I thought I was going to have to start sponsoring this working group call. But yeah,
Tim Zalman. Yes, it's tricky for us too. We'll watch that. We'll watch for that. Sorry about that.
We will get to it, and I still don't know how to sponsor it, but I'm just here. That's the only thing I can do in reality. First of all, the time slot worked for me. I was just on holiday in August, and I really enjoyed it. Greek food, highly appreciate. Still already miss it a week later. But the time slot works for me. It's just that we have currently the .com stand up, which is right before that call. So this normally works quite well for me. So happy with that. So far, all good. The only thing that I was looking for, I saw the tracking epic, and the question for me was if we should also create like a board or something so that we know, okay, those will be the steps, and have a full roadmap in there and map this out. I think I saw something in the roadmap, but wasn't sure if we have everything mapped already and if this is 100% clear there.
Not entirely, but that's a great idea to have the board. I think once the issues start filling in, I feel like that will be useful. Sorry, it will be useful to have the overview. And we did talk about having issues to track the updating of documentation, discussing the process. This telemetry might be another one. So as the epic gets filled up, we'll take care of, we'll open a board as well, and I'll share it here. That's a good idea.
And the other question for me always in working groups is, do we already know to 100% what we need to do, or is it rather like we want to get to this, but we have no clue yet how we are going to resolve it, so that we might hit some roadblocks across the path? Here it seems we are way more already focused on a very quite clear path. We know what we need to do. We will follow it through with the working group, because, for example, I have currently I'm sponsoring the observability in front-end working group, and there was just, we want to improve observability, but we don't know exactly yet. And now we have hit the roadblock where we rather want, the first thing that we want to get done is upgrade Sentry, which is now a budget discussion, etc. So we are basically pausing it. So I just wanted to know if you still see any roadblocks, any question marks, any boxes that have just like a huge question mark on it and will need some time to research, or is it 100% clear forward?
I'll start with my take, but please, everyone else fill in. So yeah, I think you're right. I think here we have a clearer distinction, clearer idea where we need to get there, where we need to get to, and how we need to get there. It's more, the challenge is more about coordinating the efforts and making sure that everybody's on the same page. And having the working group, we decided last week whether we should have it at the end of the quarter, the current quarter, or the end of the next quarter. And the idea is that we are going to target to finish as many widgets as we can during this quarter, but there's still going to be cleanup, documentation updates, process revisions, and all that we want to make sure that are useful. So the exit criteria is pretty clear. And on the Epic, we have shepherding the implementation, and then making sure that the shared component follows the reports. Maybe I can share the screen. Give me just a second so we can have it on the recording as well. So here on the Epic, we have this shepherd implementation. Are you seeing my screen? Yeah, okay. Shepherding the implementation of redesign of the 10 extensions, the full list there. The shared component follows the report regions design guidelines. That's what we usually call UX framework. We have the documentation reflecting the capabilities of the shared component, and there is a clear documentation written for how to extend the component. That's because we're not going to be by default offering the option of slots. We will be making sure that the core component supports every case that all the widgets need. And if some extension needs more, there'll be a process in place for them to extend the core component with that functionality and not just write their own code to achieve that. So these are the main 4 end goals. And I think it's pretty clear that we can start these 2 in parallel. The last 2 will be ongoing. And if I'm not mistaken, the process documentation and everything has been claimed by Tim Noah to make sure that gets, it's probably too early to start delivering on that, but it is on his field, right, Tim?
Yep, correct. There's a reason why I didn't create the issue just before I left, and I need to have a quick conversation with Kai. We can probably do this async, but it's just in relation to making the UX review and also just the implementation review of the actual framework a subset of what's already existing within the, I believe it's called the collaboration or merge request experience. So I just want to make sure that I don't create something that is in tandem. I'd rather it be an addition to something that's a complementary thing rather than something that's going to rewrite how things are currently being done. So I just want to add that in. So basically expect a issue from me and a ping. Kai.
Got it.
All right, sounds good. Is that clear? Does that answer the question, Tim? Sounds good? All right. Scott, since you're on the call, can we ask for a little update? What's your plan on the start to rewrite the more basic extensions that we have? Is that something that you're aiming for the next milestone? What's the situation and plan so far?
Yep. So trying to get it started, hopefully this milestone if we have capacity, but definitely the next milestone. I've asked either Miranda, Peyton, or Jose to start take up either low performance or web performance whenever they're ready. So I pinged them all on each of those issues, shown demo projects so it's easy for them to take up and clone locally. So we should be ready to go as soon as we have capacity for it, which from what I understand, Sam Beckham has made some room, made sure to make some room in 14.4 for Jose and Peyton.
Awesome. That sounds good. And by that time, we also expect to start extending the core component with the UX framework adjustments. So from what the looks of it, it's going to be around one issue for adding the icons, one issue for aligning the buttons and the other one for like alignment, generically speaking. And we're going to kickstart that up. We do have some struggles with capacity on 14.4 for code review, which is where Phil is, but we do expect that we'll be able to fit in a bit of that. That's why we're looking for potentially some other help. But I'll share it on the channel once we have the epic broken down, and it feels like 14.4 we'll start to see some movement from the engineering side on both sides. So Scott, my question to you is, there is an expectation, just making sure, is the expectation that once we start that work, we'll be delivering it right on that milestone, the final version of the rewrite, or is it understood that we're going to be starting that off to kick the tires of the component? There might be some roadblocks that we haven't identified yet, so the delivery might be not as certain as your typical deliverable. Is that clear, or?
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about as well. We might feature flag it instead if we find that it's not, the core component is not quite enough for the proposed design. So if we feature flag it, then we can follow up with some issues afterwards and add it. I would like to have like a closed issue in 14.4 and maybe propose some like follow-up issues to either update the icons or whatever is needed there.
Okay, keep the group posted on the feature flag approach, as I expect there'll be other cases, and we'll be important to discuss how we'll be implementing that feature flag system, whether we have one feature flag for all of them, whether we have one feature flag for each one of them, making sure that everybody's on the same page so we don't have like different approaches for each one of them. But yeah, just keep us posted.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, keep us posted. Right, that's good enough for me. Do we have any questions, any thoughts, any things we need to discuss? Otherwise, we can have some free time back. All right. Good. Yeah. Thanks for a productive meeting. It's been fun. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Sandri, for doing a great job. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.